The weather's getting warmer. Spring is almost here, and everyone knows what that means. It's time for baseball, and it's officially time for baseball now as Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association, they agreed to a new CBA. Hi, everybody. I'm Will Talent, and alongside me, as always, is my good friend, Andrew Mendez, and welcome to the third episode of the Free Baseball Pod. Now, Andrew and I have a great episode ahead for you guys. We'll first talk about that new CBA and all the new rule changes and everything that was added from the past CBA to the current CBA. Lots of stuff there. Should be really fun discussion. And then we'll cycle in to notable free agent and trade acquisitions that have happened post-lockout. We'll also name off a few more. We're going to give the sixth best or most notable of the long list that has amounted since the lockout was lifted. And then to cap off the episode, Andrew and I will have our second edition of Around the Horn. And this week, we will be talking about our top 5 catchers. And as always, we will end with a trivia question. So before we get into the CBA discussion, Andrew, how are you doing this week, my friend?
I'm doing amazing. Very happy about how the CBA deal has been reached. We talked in the last episode. I didn't really think it would be happening for at least a few weeks. I thought minimum 2 weeks of the season cut off, which almost did happen. They did say opening day was going to be at earliest April 15th, but then the next day they're like, we got a deal. So April 7th. So yeah, very happy about that. Very excited about spring training games started. A lot of free moves, a lot of moves going on, which we're going to talk about in a bit.
Yeah, definitely, Andrew. There was some skepticism as they did cancel games up until, was it the 14th or the 18th or one of those days, the 15th maybe, and it was looking very bleak. We didn't think we were going to get a full 162, but now we're going to get a full 162 starting on April 7th. But now let's get right down to business. And Andrew, let's break down what happened in this new CBA.
Mm-hmm. So for rule changes, obviously universal DH, we've kind of known it was going to come for a while. It's officially here. They got rid of the 7-inning doubleheaders, and for now, this runner on second, the ghost runner in extra innings is gone. But I did see a John Heyman tweet about last night, as we're recording this on Friday, that they could be coming back because, pitchers, short spring, don't want to risk injuries too much. So that could be coming back, which I think a lot of people, including myself, including you, would not be very happy about.
Definitely not.
One of the biggest gripes of last season in 2020. A lot of people were saying, what is this rule? It's not real baseball. And now on to the money details. Minimum salary, which is one of the big holdups, which will be starting at $700K, up 23%, pretty big amount from 2021. It'll raise $20K each year till 2026. The competitive balance, the CBT competitive balance threshold will be at $230 million and will go up to 244 at 2026. There'll be 12-team playoff, 16 draft lottery. And then what I really like is they added some service time manipulation changes. So they'll give a full year of service time to players who finished within top 2 of their respective rookie of the year voting for their respective league. And draft picks will be rewarded to teams that promote players on opening day and finish within the top leaders for major awards. So that'll incentivize teams to not hold players back for the first, whatever it is, 17 days, teams did with Kris Bryant, Vladimir Guerrero, Gleyber Torres. And then we also have some schedule changes. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Will?
Sure, Andrew. So the schedule changes it's 2023. They're not going to do it this year because obviously the schedule's already made. But starting next year, everybody's going to play everybody. That includes American League and National League. They're going to make sure that everybody gets a chance to play everybody at least once. And every other year, it's going to switch from between, for example, the Yankees will play the Dodgers. So let's say next year they play the Dodgers in New York. In 2024, they will play them in LA. So it just switches up every single year, and it makes the scheduling so much more balanced. When, for example, you have that team like the White Sox, who is just they're so much better than everybody in the American League Central. Those are just, I don't want to call them free wins because wins are not free, but they have it a little easier as compared to the American League East with the Blue Jays, Yankees, Tampa Bay Rays, and the Red Sox. You have 4 really good teams in that division who all have to play each other a lot. The White Sox have 4 teams that they can beat up on all the time. American League East, they're not going to be beating up on each other. Maybe the Orioles, but even some teams struggle with the Orioles, like the Yankees. But it will make it a lot more balanced, and it'll make it a lot more fun. People get to see other players from other leagues. Mookie Betts, you'll get to see Mookie Betts more often if you live on the East Coast. I know he played for the Red Sox, so you got a good dose of him, but you don't get to see him that much anymore. So like a guy like Cody Bellinger too, you'll get to see him more often against your team and every other year at your home field. So that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, I love this change. I've been wanting to have this for a while. Ever since I started watching baseball, my favorite parts of the schedule was when they would have that little period from June, like mid-June till mid-July, where it would just be interleague games. It used to be like, I think everybody knows about it, how it used to be not like interleague all year. It used to be a little period. And those were cool because we never got to see the NL teams. And now that we get to play every team every year, I think that's so cool. Like, especially since there's players who, like, if you play in an NL or an NL club, you might not get to play in a certain AL stadium for like your whole career, and you could play like 7 years. So I think it's great that they added that. Great for just growing the game. Great for getting players out there to different markets.
Definitely. I really, really like this change too, Andrew. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to bring more people to the game to see other athletes that they would not normally get to see. Now, for another, it's not a schedule change. I would call it more of a schedule addition. Major League Baseball is now expanding their international horizons. They used to play games in Mexico and some in Puerto Rico, and they had that one series with the Yankees and Red Sox in London back in 2019. And obviously, due to how the world kind of folded out the last few years, the international games were not a thing. But now Major League Baseball is expanding. So they will be playing games in Mexico, Paris, London, the Dominican Republic, and as well as Puerto Rico. Really like this too. You're exposing the game to places where it needs to be exposed. Now, in Central and South America, you got Mexico, and you have the Puerto Rico, and you have the Dominican Republic, places where baseball is very prevalent. But then you go to Europe and you play in London and Paris. Those are not big baseball countries. Now, you're going to show them the national pastime of America, and I just really like it because it shows people how entertaining and how much fun the sport can really be.
Yeah, I really like the international games. I think they're great for growing the game, especially London, because they're not really a place where baseball is very popular. They're more into cricket. And when the Yankees and Red Sox went over there, I'm sure there was tons of people that just like were learning new baseball rules and about the game, about the players for the first time, which is great. And I just hope the next time that they do an international game that it feels more like a real baseball game, because when we played in London, it did not feel like real baseball. That was just a slugfest. I think one of the games ended with about 30 runs combined. So I just hope it's a more level play stadium the next time.
Yeah, I do too, Andrew, but we got to be honest, could kind of expect that. We look at last year with the Field of Dreams game. People are going to want to see offense in a big premier game like that, especially if you're going across the pond and you're going to have an audience of people who have not seen this game before. Personally, I do agree with you. I'd rather see a more balanced game because a baseball game is not 15-13. If it was more like, I don't know, like 6-5, 6-4, that'd be fine because you want to show them what the game is really about. Like a score of 15-13, that doesn't always happen. You want to show them what usually happens in baseball. But it's all a marketing strategy. So whatever happens. But the last thing I want to talk about here, Andrew, about the CBA is the 12-team playoff format. I want to hear your thoughts on this revamped and added or additional 2 teams to the playoff format.
I said last episode, I think 10 is perfect. 12, I can live with. Obviously, the owners wanted more. Players had to compromise. 12, I do find it very interesting. I believe they're going with the I'm not 100% sure. I believe they're going with the format where you get to pick who you get to play. But I'm very happy that it's not 14. So 12 is fine.
I definitely agree with you. I don't want it to be 14 at all. You're getting way too close to that 50% mark. You cannot reward 50% of the league. That's just, no, that's not going to happen. I 100% agree with you. 10 was perfectly fine. The only change I would have made, I would like to see that wild card game become a series just to drag it out a little more. But the one game playoff is exciting too, because backs are against the wall. You have one game to decide your 162 game season. That it's always very interesting. It sucks when your team is in it, like the Yankees last year, but it is what it is. I don't know the specifics on how they're going to do this, but whatever they're going to do, I think it'll be fun. It's going to shake up the game a little bit, and it'll give teams more of an opportunity to win. You make that 12-team pool, and then as everybody knows, it's just a crapshoot from there. You just got to win those. It'll be more games now, but be the first team to win 11 games in October, and you get yourself a big trophy and a ring. So that is it for our CBA talk. Lots to unpack that we just did right there. It should be a fun 5 years, a lot of things to look ahead in terms of the way baseball is played. But now we are going to move on to our post-lockout most notable free agent signings. Now, there are still some big names on the board as opening day approaches. Guys like Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, two guys that were in our top 5 shortstop segment in our last episode. Nick Castellanos, a free agent that we broke down as well in the last episode. Another guy that we haven't really talked about, Michael Conforto, as well as Kenley Jansen. These are all guys that are still unsigned, but they should find homes very soon. And big guys have hit the trade market, or the trading block, I should say. Guys like, now this man, he's been in the conversation for a few years now. The starting pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds, Luis Castillo, electric stuff. Don't really know what the Reds are doing. Kind of tore it all down for some reason, but Luis Castillo, his name has always been linked to trades, and he's still in the trading block. Yankees first baseman Luke Voit, he's been in trade talks for about, I would say, a few months now. They were trying to move him at the deadline, and the Yankees, they just re-signed first baseman Anthony Rizzo, so there's really no room for Mr. Voit. So expect him to be on the move. And then we continue with the Oakland Athletics fire sale. They are still looking to move starting pitchers Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea. And our last notable trade candidate is first baseman Eric Hosmer of the San Diego Padres. So lots of big names right there that are going to be on the move, or they're going to be signed within the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. And now we're going to get into the best of the best of these notable transactions. And I'll start it off, Andrew. Freddie Freeman, he came off the board just a few days ago, and he went to actually where you said that he was going to go, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, he went for 6 years at a $162 million clip. That is a great contract. I honestly thought he was going to get more, but it appeared that the Dodgers were the only team that were willing to give him that 6th year. The Yankees were in it towards the end. The Braves, they went out and did another move that Andrew will talk about next. But Freddie Freeman, he is now a part of what you could probably say is the best lineup ever. And this move clearly makes the Dodgers World Series favorites to win, not just to come out of the National League, but to win. And the simple maneuver here is that Freddie Freeman will just take Max Muncy's spot, and with the universal DH, like you said before, Andrew, Max Muncy will then be the designated hitter for the Dodgers. So a great move for the Dodgers, and happy for Freddie Freeman. He gets the money that he deserves.
Yeah, obviously the Dodgers, they're just crazy. Andrew Friedman, every single offseason, always making the big move. Trevor
Great
Bauer,
executive.
Yeah. Mookie Betts, 2020. Then Trevor Bauer last year with Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. And now he gets the best first base in baseball to add to an already stacked line of Will Smith, Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor. This might be the best offense. Might be the best lineup we've ever seen. Might be.
We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. I know you don't feel very strongly about the Dodgers in the playoffs. I do.
No, 6 games, they're done in the National League Championship Series. That's all I got to say about that.
We will be doing our National League predictions in the coming future. So we'll have to see who we think. Obviously, you already have them out.
Haven't gone that far though. Definitely haven't gone that far.
Yeah, they're going to be there. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be a 100-win team. This offense,
easily.
I just don't get how you get past this lineup now with Freeman and all these guys. There's no holes. The biggest hole in their lineup is probably Cody Bellinger, and he's won an MVP. And we'll see if he bounces back this year. So Freddie Freeman, that Dodgers just keep doing it, man. So now on to my next move that I'm going to be discussing is Matt Olson to the Braves, which corresponds with our last move because obviously the Braves did not want to give Freeman the 6 years, the big contract. So they decided to pivot to Matt Olson, which is still pretty good. Probably a top 3, top 4, arguably number 2 first baseman in baseball. Probably not number 2. So they trade him. He was traded from the A's to the Braves for 4 prospects, including top former 100 prospect, Christian Pache, who played a little bit in the playoffs, pinch running some for the Braves. And then the next day, Olson actually signed an 8-year, $168 million extension to stay in Atlanta. So pretty good replacement for Freddie Freeman. Not what Braves fans wanted. They obviously wanted Freeman to stay. But to get an incredible bat over 850, 900 OPS in Oakland, which is a very tough stadium to hit over the past few years. Amazing defender, Gold Glove defender at first base. It's one of the best moves of the offseason for the Braves. So, yeah, as I said, one of the top moves. Good job, Braves.
I think that may be one of the best moves of the offseason. It's an incredible pivot from your franchise player in Freddie Freeman, and you also lock him down for almost a decade. And Matt Olson, he is still very young, and he will provide a very similar thump off the bat that Freddie Freeman has, and very similar defense. They're 2 very comparable players. I really like this move for the Braves. And I mean, I guess you could say they got a little weaker with not bringing Freddie Freeman back. But honestly, Andrew, I don't really see it that way. I think they just replaced Freddie Freeman with someone who is almost the equivalent of Freddie Freeman. I really like this move for the Braves, and it'll pay dividends for them in the future. Especially, we can look at their contracts. They kind of got him on a very, I don't want to call it a discount, but a very team-friendly contract. He signed that extension right away, and he didn't want to test his value out a little bit. They locked him down, and good for the Braves. But they're paying a combined Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, all guys who can be all-stars, and one of them who can be a MVP. They're paying all 3 of them less than what the Mets are paying Max Scherzer. That is incredible. Those are 3 incredible bats in that lineup, and those are 3 guys who are probably top 5 at their respective positions. So great job by Alex Anthopoulos and the Atlanta Braves. But moving on to our next notable transaction, that is going to be Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez to the Seattle Mariners for left-handed pitcher Brandon Williamson, outfielder and former prospect Jake Fraley, and another former prospect, right-handed pitcher Justin Dunn. Now, this is an incredible trade for the Seattle Mariners. I think they are going to be the clear-cut winners of this trade. They get Jesse Winker, who had a 932 OPS in 2020 and a 941 OPS with 32 doubles and 24 home runs in 2021. This is a guy that goes all sorts of fields. He uses each gap, and he hits for a lot of power. He's a very good bat. He's got very good bat to ball skills. What an incredible pickup for the Seattle Mariners, a team that was lacking left-handed hitting in general, but also left-handed thump. Really good pickup in Jesse Winker. And also they add a guy who has shown a lot of power prowess in the past, and that's Eugenio Suarez. He was not that good in the first half of 2021, but he did bounce back and he hit 31 home runs, and he collected an 859 OPS in the second half. But he is a below average fielder. But that bat will compensate for that lack of defense. I think this is a very good pickup. Now, he's got kind of a horrible contract, but in my opinion, I don't think it really matters because he he is a very good bounce back candidate. And like I just said, he has shown that he will be able, or that he is able to crank out some power numbers and really be a threat in a lineup that has a lot of offensive threats. So this is a very, very good move, in my opinion, by the Seattle Mariners. We'll see what happens with the Cincinnati Reds. These guys that they got are pretty young, so we'll see how they pan out. But good job by Jerry DiPoto and the Seattle Mariners front office.
Yeah, this was definitely a move that definitely caught me a little off guard. I didn't really see many rumors. We knew the Reds were gonna sell off a little bit, trade some of their pieces. I did not know that Winker was on the block. I knew there's a possibility of it, but once I saw it, I was like, whoa. And Mariners, they're really going for it. They got Robbie Ray, they got Adam Frazier, now they got Winker and Suarez. They got still need some holes on offense, obviously. Not a very good offense, but the pitching is good. They're probably going to compete for a playoff spot next year. Could compete for the AL West. It's going to be very tough how good the Astros are. Winker, definitely one of the more underappreciated, underrated outfielders in the league. Had incredible last 2 years. Even before that, he was pretty good. But last 2 years, really, when he's made a name for himself. And for the Reds, man, what can you say? Like, it's tough. It's been tough for them.
Yeah, it's kind of an unexpected fire sale, I guess you could call it.
A little
It's
unexpected.
a shame. But yeah, once Castellanos opted out, I mean, I guess you could kind of foreshadow that happening, but it's just a shame because this team was constructed in a very short amount of time, and they did make the playoffs. But I don't know what they're doing over there in Cincinnati, but hopefully they'll be back to where they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's rough because 2020 they really went in that off season, they had Bauer the year before, and then Bauer has that not breakout year, but Cy Young year, and they had an incredible rotation with Bauer and Gray and Castillo, and they just couldn't score a run in the playoffs, so that was rough. So now on to my next move, which was very surprising. Nobody really expected this guy to sign here. In the last episode, I predicted Kris Bryant to go to the Seattle Mariners, as we just discussed, but he actually ended up signing with the Colorado Rockies for 7 years, $182 million. Kris Bryant, good for him getting that bag. Probably the highest bidder, I'd assume so. For the Rockies, I really don't get what their direction is with their franchise right now. I said it when it happened immediately. I was like, this doesn't really make any sense. They're rebuilding. They just got rid of Nolan Arenado, their franchise player, one of the best players ever, and just traded him away after signing him to a huge extension. And now they go and sign Kris Bryant. It's a good move, I guess, for improving the team. But when you're a team that's rebuilding, I really don't get it.
This is the epitome of a head scratcher. That's all you could really say. It made absolutely zero sense. Like you just said, Andrew, they traded Nolan Arenado, who is a better player than Kris Bryant. And also they traded $50 million away to the Cardinals with Nolan Arenado. So, and then they bring in Kris Bryant. And like you said, good for Kris Bryant. This guy got his bag. He got the money that he deserves. The guy has an MVP and a World Series. Now he's just going to go pad those offensive stats in Colorado. But the Rockies, it just poses the question: are they going for it, or are they tearing it down? Like, I don't understand what they're doing over there. But just good for Kris Bryant. That's all I can really say on that.
Yeah, good for Kris Bryant. The Rockies, well, it's kind of expected, but not expected by the Rockies, because the Rockies, what they do as an organization doesn't make sense. It's kind of what like the Kings for basketball. Like
very similar.
They just do whatever, and they're just like, oh yeah, that's the Rockies.
Rockies would rather have a draft compensation pick for Trevor Story than getting multiple prospects for him at the trade deadline. That makes a lot of sense. But my last acquisition of high note, and this is probably my favorite of the three that I've mentioned, is Chris Bassett to the New York Mets for starting pitcher prospect JT Ginn and Adam Oller. Now, Chris Bassett is probably one of the better three starters that we're going to see next year. He was incredible with the A's He had a 12-4 record last year with a 3.14 ERA and a 1.05 WHIP. He was also an All-Star for the first time last year, and he has finished in the top 10 in Cy Young voting in the last 2 seasons. He had 159 strikeouts to 39 walks. Very good statistics there for Mr. Bassett. And this makes the New York Mets rotation the best in baseball without a doubt. You get Jacob deGrom on day 1, you get Max Scherzer on day 2, and then you get Kris Bassett on day 3. Now, Kris Bassett does not compare to the magnitude of Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, but I'll tell you what, he is a phenomenal 3 starter to have. Adds incredible depth to an already strong New York Mets rotation. And as I just said, I think this is going to be the move that makes the Mets the best starting rotation in Major League Baseball. So good job, Uncle Steve Cohen. He went out and got that starting rotation depth. And I think this move also solidifies them as the clear-cut favorite to win the National League East.
Yeah, I think they were already the favorite to win the NL East, but this definitely solidifies it. Best rotation baseball, as you said, 1 to 5, just deep. Every single starter is probably going to give you a quality start on any average day. Even Carlos Carrasco, number 5 starter. Actually, maybe not, because he really didn't pitch much last year.
Another bounce back candidate, though.
Yeah,
he had great years with Cleveland, so keep an eye on Carlos Carrasco.
Definitely. Bassett, this was a move that I wasn't really I was expecting the Mets to get a starting pitcher, not one of this caliber. Kris Bassett is someone who, over the last few years, has been top 10 in some categories, such as WHIP, Ks per 9, ERA. I'd even consider him a top 20 pitcher in baseball. So now the Mets have 3. He's probably more of a 2 for most rotations, but you can say they have 3 aces now, which when you have 3 aces, that's a pretty good rotation. And it's definitely going to,
I would say so.
definitely going to win you some games with deGrom, best pitcher in baseball, Scherzer, top 3 pitcher in baseball, and then Kris Bassett, a top 20 pitcher in baseball. So once again, good job, Steve Cohen. Done it again. Great offseason for the Mets. And now moving on to the final move that I'll be talking about, which is Carlos Rodon signing with the San Francisco Giants for 2 years, $44 million, which is, in my opinion, a bit of a bargain, because Carlos Rodon, I think, at his potential, is like a $30 million pitcher, as he showed last year. But 2020 didn't really pitch much because of injuries. 2019 wasn't that good. He had an incredible bounce back year last year, 2.37 ERA in 132 innings, 12.6 Ks per 9. But as I mentioned, the 132 innings, he does have an injury concern. He hasn't really been able to stay healthy, which is why he was only able to get $22 million a year instead of the $30 million that I think his value is really at. Because we saw the perfect game, near perfect game until the last batter. He was a Cy Young candidate. Probably could have finished first even if he didn't get hurt. So the Giants, great move replacing Gausman with Rodon, and just one of the deepest rotations in baseball now. They added Matt Boyd, they added Alex Cobb, they brought back Wood and DeSclafani. So the Giants, they're definitely up there. I don't think they're going to win the NL East because we said the Dodgers, they're crazy, but I think they'll finish second.
Yeah, Andrew, I think that's a very good corresponding move to losing your ace in Kevin Gausman. Carlos Rodon can be an ace in certain rotations. I don't know if I agree with you as him being a $30 million pitcher, maybe 25, but he definitely deserves big money though, because that season he had last year, that warrants big money. And he, as you said, he adds to an already deep Giants rotation. That Giants rotation to me is going to be one of the most underrated in baseball, and it will help them get into a wild card spot in the National League. I personally do agree with you as well. I think they will be better than the San Diego Padres again. I really do. The lineup, it did take a hit. They did lose Buster Posey and they did lose Kris Bryant, but it's still strong enough where they're going to score a decent amount of runs. And the pitching rotation didn't really take a hit at all. If anything, it got a little better and it got a little deeper. So, I would definitely keep an eye out on the Giants in the National League. And that is going to wrap up our most notable free agent signings. But before we switch over to our next segment, Around the Horn, I'm just going to rattle off some of the other notable transactions that have occurred Matt Chapman, third baseman, platinum glove winner to the Toronto Blue Jays. Nelson Cruz, DH, new DH for the Washington Nationals. Josh Donaldson, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and top catching prospect Ben Reutevet. They were traded to the New York Yankees for Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. Kyle Schwarber signed a 4-year, $79 million pact with the Philadelphia Phillies. Seiya Suzuki, he signed from Japan a 5-year, $85 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. Clayton Kershaw, he returned to the Los Angeles Dodgers where he belongs. Yusei Kikuchi, he signed a 3-year, $36 million deal to bolster that Toronto Blue Jays rotation. Anthony Rizzo, as we previously mentioned, he returns to the Yankees on a 2-year, $32 million deal. Ryan Tepera, a very sneaky move here. He goes to the Angels, really bolsters that bullpen. Andrew McCutchen, he heads over to Milwaukee. Sonny Gray was traded to the Minnesota Twins for pitching prospect and former first-round pick in 2021, Chase Petty. Eddie Rosario, he goes back to the Braves on a 2-year, $18 million deal, the postseason hero for the Atlanta Braves last season. Zach Greinke, he goes back to where it all started, to the Kansas City Royals, 1 year, $13 million. The White Sox, they continue to bolster that bullpen. Joe Kelly, he goes to the White Sox for a 2-year, $17 million deal. And the last of the notable acquisitions, Alex Colome, very strong, and not as good as he used to be, but he's a very dependable and reliable relief pitcher. He goes to the Colorado Rockies. Okay, so we're going to hop into our last segment, Around the Horn, where we spin the wheel of all the positions in Major League Baseball to pick our top 5 at that position. So, Andrew, without further ado, let's spin that wheel.
Catcher.
Catcher. Whoa. Catcher. Wow. Okay, so we're going to get into our final segment now, and that is Around the Horn. And this week, we will be covering our top 5 catchers in Major League Baseball. So I'm going to start it off. And at number 5, I have the Tampa Bay Rays backstop, Mike Zunino. Now, Zunino, he was an all-star for the first time in his career last season in 2021. He hit 33 home runs with 62 RBIs, not too much of an average guy, 216, 301 OBP, and a 559 slugging percentage to go along with an 860 OPS. Pretty good slash there besides the average. But like I said, not really an average guy. He really goes for the long ball. He's a high K guy, had 132 Ks last year to only 34 walks. So once again, kind of it goes back to that power hitting point. He low vision, just when he makes contact, the ball's going to fly, and making contact is the key there. But he makes up for it on defense. He had a 995 fielding percentage with 7 defensive runs saved, and that was good for 9th among catchers who caught at least 50 innings in 2021. So Mike Zunino at number 5 for me. At number 4, I have the Philadelphia Phillies catcher JT Realmuto. Realmuto, he had 17 home runs, 73 RBIs, 263 average, 343 on base percentage with a 439 slugging percentage and a 782 OPS. Realmuto is a 3-time All-Star, a 2-time Silver Slugger, and he has 1 Gold Glove. Now, Realmuto, behind the dish, he has a 999 fielding percentage, but he had 0 defensive run saves. However, the reason he edges Mike Zunino, in my opinion, is his ability to move. He can move better than any catcher in the league, and he can move better than most people in the league, not just catchers. He had 13 stolen bases in 2021, which is, it's not the highest of numbers, but this guy can flat out run the bases, and you don't really see that with catchers a lot. So I got to give Realmuto the nod over Zunino at 4. But at number 3, I have Kansas City Royals catcher Salvador Perez. Now, Salvador Perez had a absolutely a career year last year. 48 home runs, 121 RBI. He led the major leagues in both of those categories. He had a 273 batting average with a 316 on base percentage, a 544 slugging percentage, and an 859 OPS. A very, very strong offensive season for Perez. He's a 7-time All-Star. He's a 4-time Silver Slugger. He won the World Series with Kansas City in 2015, and he was also the World Series MVP. Now, he is a 5-time Gold Glover in his career, but This was actually his worst defensive season, where he tallied -5 defensive runs saved. So I honestly would have put him at 2. He maybe could have been at 1 after this season if that defensive run save number was actually positive. That the -5, that really, really hurt him in my ranking. But nevertheless, a top 3 catcher in my eyes, especially with those offensive numbers, and also especially at catcher, where offense really hasn't been I would say a strong suit over the last few years. So Salvador Perez, number 3. Now at number 2, this guy I am super high on. Andrew, you might even agree with me when you say your list, and that's Will Smith of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Will Smith, 25 home runs, 76 RBIs, 258 batting average, a 365 on base percentage, a 495 slugging percentage, and an 860 OPS. And he is only 26 years old. He had a 995 fielding percentage, and he had 5 defensive runs saved. That's not amazing, but that is very, very good. He can definitely be number 1 in 2022 after the 2022 season, in my opinion. He just needs to get that on base percentage and OPS a little closer to my number 1 guy, and that is Yasmani Grandal. Yasmani Grandal will round out my list at number 1, the catcher for the Chicago White Sox. Now, Yasmani Grandal, 23 home runs, 62 RBIs, 240 average, but this is where he shines. 420 on base percentage. He gets on a lot. 520 slugging percentage and a 939 OPS. That is an astronomical number, and that to me is the reason why he is number 1 for 2022. He's a 2-time All-Star. Now, he is also not the best defender, 989 fielding percentage with -1 defensive run saved. But as I said, he is an on-base machine. He walked more than he struck out in 2021, 87 walks to 82 strikeouts. That's why that on-base percentage is so high. And that OPS, that is a glaring number in the most positive way you could think of. So Yasmani Grandal, in my opinion, is the best catcher in Major League Baseball, but there are some names that could catch up to him after season's end. So I'm going to toss it over to you now, Andrew. Who do you have in your top 5?
Well, I got to say, great top 5 list. I have the same, well, I don't have the same exact order, but I do have the same collection of 5 players. So good choices on your part. So I agree I am on the same page with you with the 1 and 2. Grandal, as you mentioned, one of the best at getting on base in the league. I believe he might have led the league in on base percentage last year, and a lot of people, who aren't as in touch with on base percentage, more batting average, they're like, oh, he had a low batting average in the 220s, 230s. But when you're getting on
240,
when you're getting on 42% of the time, I honestly couldn't care what your batting average is.
especially in that White Sox lineup. He's going to score a lot. He's getting on base that much.
A lot of runs, that lineup. Like you said, one of the best pitcher framers in the league. Will Smith, like you mentioned, this kid, I think he'll be the best catcher in baseball by the end of next year. He's super quick. His offense stats last 2 years been insane. Since he really debuted in 2019. But my number 3, we differ a little bit. You have Salvador Perez. I have JT Realmuto. I think the difference that puts JT over Salvi is the defense. As we mentioned, Salvador Perez, he's not very good. He is a Gold Glover in the past, but last year, one of the worst pitch framers in the league. He can't really block. JT has the best arm in the league. He's great at calling games, great blocker, and catching is probably not, maybe up there with shortstop and center field, if not the most important position for defense. So I'm obviously going to value that a lot for this position, for this ranking. That's why I kind of have to have JT over Salvador Perez. Also, Salvador Perez didn't really play in 2019, so it kind of factors into my offensive numbers a little bit. Obviously, Salvador, much better numbers. And then my number 5 is Zunino. We both agree on that. Great offensive season 2021. Gonna need to see a little bit more from him if he wants to get into the top 3, but he is a great pitch framer, finished top 20 MVP last year. Has some good hitting stats in the playoffs 2020 also. So that's my top 5. And just some honorable mentions: Wilson Contreras. He's just missed the top 5. Almost put him in over Zunino. He's a great two-way catcher. Jacob Stallings, probably the best defensive catcher in baseball. Max Stassi, very good game caller, above average hitter for a catcher. And then Mitch Garver, who probably could have been in the top 5 if he didn't really fall off the cliff in 2020, because his 2019 season was one of the best from catcher we've seen in recent years. And now he's on the Rangers.
Yeah, Andrew, very I would say probably one of the thinner positions in Major League Baseball, but still a good list. A lot of good players there as well. We differed with Salvi and JT. I just could not throw that season of that Salvador Perez had last year off to the side. I'm not saying that you did, but to me, that the production that the catching position has gotten on offense recently, the fact that Salvador Perez was able to do that, I had to give him the number 3 spot. But as I said, and you said, 2 very similar lists. So that is going to wrap up this segment of Around the Horn. And that's going to wrap up our show. But before we leave, as always, it is trivia time. So last week's question was, who has the most home runs by a shortstop in a single season? And the correct answer was Alex Rodriguez. He hit 57 long balls in 2002 with the Texas Rangers. Shout out to my mom. She was the first viewer to answer the question correctly. But now, Andrew, what is episode 3's question?
Episode 3 question is, who was the most recent catcher to win the Most Valuable Player Award? So comment, apply, or tweet, or comment on the YouTube, Instagram if you know the answer. And as always, just thank you so much for all the support we've gotten for the first 2 episodes. Greatly appreciated. Anybody who likes any post, any tweet, likes on YouTube, just want to say we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Much love to all of you, the viewers, as Andrew said, the retweets, the likes, the follows, everything that you guys have done to show us support. It is much, much appreciated. We can't stress it enough. We're going to stay with the catcher theme for this trivia question. So comment on our Twitter, who is the latest catcher to win the Most Valuable Player? So that is going to do it for episode 3 of the Free Baseball Pod. For Andrew Mendez, I'm Will Talent, and we are signing off in this one.